I retired from police work back in 2013. Now I'm doing digital forensics, and I'm really top in my field as far as digital forensics and what I do. That just kind of came off of
Hey, welcome to the Knight's Path podcast. Today I've got a guest, which is a blast from the past, Bill Aycock. He's kind of got like a Confederate Union Army general beard going on. But man, welcome, Bill. What's up,
thank
brother?
you. Thank you, man. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So, man, Bill and I only worked together for like 2 years, but he and I were on the same shift. We were on the SWAT team together. We were workout partners together. We did martial arts together, and like we crammed so much stuff in 2 years that Bill and I, we got more crap on each other probably than most people in my life. But that's a good thing. I love him. He's my brother. Trust him with my life. How you been, man? How are things?
Hey, it's going really good. I can't believe that we were together that long. I mean, it seems like it must have been dog years. Those 2 years, because we did a lot together. I mean, in those 2 years, you became one of my best friends and partners and confidants. And oh man, I mean, we got so close in this. I think we really connected as far as on more than just a work level and on a personal level. I mean, we really connected great, and I think that's important. So, man, life's been great. I retired from police work back in 2013. Now I'm doing digital forensics, and I'm really top in my field as far as digital forensics and what I do. That just kind of came off of my work as an investigator and doing forensics for the PD, and then retiring and going into it on a personal level and in a private level. And man, it is great. It is really great.
Yeah. So we'll definitely get into that. I'll put all your information in the comments and stuff like that if people need to get a hold of you. But hey, just so everyone knows, I mean, you're not going to hear a bunch of crazy way back in the day stories with me and Bill. We certainly got him, but he's so top in his field. I mean, he's still he does expert witness testimony and things like that for different organizations or companies or lawyer groups and stuff like that. So we will definitely keep it PC. But Bill, I know. Let's kind of tell some folks about. Let's kind of take you. Where you went to high school. I know you went to Berkeley for a while. I know you were PD back in a little Texas town, and then you came back to the Hill Country, and then, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah. So I went to high school in Kerrville at Tybee and graduated, and I have a musical talent. I'm a drummer, and so I thought that talent was where your calling was. And so I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston, premier music school in the nation. I studied there 2 years, and came to the conclusion that music was great and I had a talent, but it really wasn't my calling. My calling was being a policeman. I'd always kind of in the back of my mind, I'd always thought I wanted to be a policeman. And even in my high school years, I was volunteering in fire departments and EMS. And so, I should have seen the signs back then, but I really didn't have someone to coach me through that like I do now. I coach kids and mentor kids into public service. And so, after doing music for a couple of years, I came back to Kerrville and followed my calling to be a policeman. I signed up at the PD in Kerrville as a dispatcher, and I started dispatching for a couple of years, and I put myself through the academy. And then when I graduated from the Officers Academy, at the time, Kerrville wouldn't hire anyone with that experience. You had to have street experience, even though I'd been working for them. So I put out like 60 applications and was testing every weekend, trying to find, and I take the first person that hired me, and the first group that hired me was Kingsville PD in the South Texas. So I went down to Kingsville, and man, I was really immersed into the Wild West. That South Texas area is wild, and I worked every penal code offense in the first year that I was there in Kingsville. I met my wife there. We got married, and then after about a year and a half in Kingsville, I said, you know what, I got some experience, and I went back to Kerrville, and they hired me because I had experience. So I worked at Kerrville for 10 years at Kerrville, and man, that's where you and I run into each other. We did SWAT, K9. I did a bunch of work, administrative work with dispatch. So after that, I kind of went through some marital problems because police work really is tough on a marriage. And so I got out of police work and got my marriage back together. And after getting my marriage back together, I went back to work in police work for Ingram Police Department, which is a little suburb right outside of Kerrville. It's smaller department, smaller town. And, I really found that was really my calling, the small town police work, because, I think we all get into police work with that mentality of, hey, we're going to save the world. We're going to change our community. And when you're working a larger department and you're working call to call to call, you really don't have an effect on people. You're going from one call to the other, and you're not really building relationships with people, and you're not really affecting them. You're just kind of walking through their life, and you're just kind of passing through. But, when I went to work for Ingram and I became their investigator, and I stayed their investigator for the rest of my years as law enforcement, another 10 years until I retired. And, working that small department, I could actually make an effect on people. Like, I knew, not only did I know, of course I knew the crooks, but and the criminals, but man, I knew their moms, I knew their dads, I knew their kids, I knew their grandparents, I knew where they lived. And so, and I built these relationships in this little bitty town. And, I went to the high schools and had lunch with the kids, and I went to the elementary school, and my kids were in high school and my kids were in elementary school with them. Right. And so they knew my kids and they knew me. And, I'd go to elementary school and I'd have lunch with my daughter or my son, and I'd meet kids there, and then I'd meet their parents at events. And so I learned real quick that small town policing, I could be really effective. People would come to me, with their problems or with something, they would come to me for help. And that's what we really got into this job for, was to make an effect on our community. And so, man, 10 years of that. And, this little bitty town, I worked stuff from the minor theft, the minor shoplifting. And I worked all the way up to a quintuple homicide where we had 5 people killed and the guy that committed suicide. So, I worked everything in this little bitty town. So it wasn't like there wasn't anything going on in this town, but I think the real magical thing was the effect that I had on people and my effectiveness as a policeman. I mean, that really hit home in this little bitty town. So, after I retired, I still live in Ingram. I still am involved in the community. I'm still on boards and stuff now. And, but now I do the digital forensics end, and that came from police work. I started doing that as an investigator, and when I retired, I saw that there's a real need for that. There's a real need for real professionals in that industry. There's some people that say they're an expert, but really they're not, because they don't have the personal discipline to pursue it the way it needs to be pursued, to stay up with the technology and the training. They kind of push the easy button and they're an expert. And so, I see a real need in that field for people that are true experts that really know their craft, and they really go to the nth degree and have the personal discipline to pursue it to the best that you can do. And so that's where I'm at now. and I really feel like, you're doing a great service that we need to start teaching men, especially men. We need to start teaching them that they have a place in society that's specific to
Right.
men. I mean, men have a role in society and women have a role in society. And that's not to be masculine or feminine or one against the other. I mean, we have different roles. And I think men in our society now are really getting off track. I think that they're starting to lose what it means to be a real man
Right.
and to be an honorable man and to be disciplined. And man, I think more people need to hear that.
Yeah, you and I had lunch not too long ago when you were in Waco working a case, and it amazes me that like guys like you and I, there's this group of men out there that are highly skilled, that have been in some crap, whether it be military or police work. I know so many of my peers and my buddies, and it's just like there's this group of men that are like silverbacks, right? Like there's this group from 45 to 65 that's just this really highly experienced man, great guys. And we can't just let that die. So that group, that demographic has to try to look down at the men and try to mentor them and bring them up and say, hey, this is what being a man's about. You don't need to be ashamed of it. This is what you can stand for. Have a code of ethics, that you don't ever waver on. It's what being a man's about and what's withstanding thing. When when it gets tough, you bear down, you get back up, dust yourself off. Like that Roosevelt, the critic, right? That poem. I love that one.
Yep.
You just keep getting back up and you do the hard things. But yeah, I agree. And it was great to reconnect with you. It's great to have you on here. So you and I kind of talked about this. You and I were workout partners. So back in the day, you and I were trying to lift houses. So we were doing low reps and heavy weight, and we hit our goals, dude. I mean, we got you up to bench at 315. I benched 400, and you're the guy that spotted me on that. Yeah. So you're the only witness on the planet that says, yeah, Matt benched 400 pounds. You were there. You were screaming at me, and I'm like, about to blow a vein out of my forehead or whatever. But that was amazing. And now you just turned 50. I'm 52. And we just talked about, so what are you doing as far as physically fit? I mean, you're doing basically body weight workouts. I am too, where you're just doing all body weights. It kind of, I know what you used to try to do, when we were young in our late 20s, mid to late 20s. And then, where are you now?
So, those days, gosh, man, I remember going to the sports center and, we would steal all the plates from everybody. We would go and we would steal all the plates from the entire gym. No one had any plates while we were there doing leg day because we'd throw all those things on the sled and just, man, we were at that very end of the gym, just screaming, man. We were like,
we were screamers too, man. We weren't quiet, man. You were those turds.
Yeah. I remember we would cause a scene, but we were pressing like cars, and we were pressing tons
I
of
remember
weight.
like 1,080 pounds. And then I remember Curtis being there one time. So we would have plates and there was no room on the end. And then this leg sled had a vertical. So we would put a couple plates there, and then we're out of plates. And then I told Curtis, I said, hey, Curtis, get up there and sit up there. So he's sitting up there, all the plates, and I'm doing my heavy set, 3 to 5 reps. And he's just up there like a little monkey holding on to a tetherball pole. And we were nuts, dude.
Yeah, that was some crazy stuff. So that, back then, I tell people, in fact, I was talking to a guy the other day that he's trying to lose some weight, and he was saying, man, I'm working out 6 days a week and I'm lifting this. And I told him, man, if you're not out there fighting bad guys every day, you don't need to be working out 6 days a week. You need to give your body some rest, especially, and he's our age, he's above 50. And so, when we were younger and we did all that stuff, little did we know that we were like really hurting ourselves.
We could
we
have
were,
used like a rest day every other day
yeah,
to
yeah.
really
I mean,
maximize. Yeah.
we really overdid it. And so, now we're starting to reap those benefits of, pressing cars above our heads and stuff. And so, now I don't know, you've probably got the same stuff I've got, man. I got joint problems now. I got back problems, compressed discs from all that heavy lifting and stuff. And that's really where it came from. So, um, so now that I'm not, I want to stay in decent shape to where I can handle myself
Right.
if I need to. And that's really my goal now. Back then you and our goal was to be the biggest and the baddest on the street. And there were some pretty big and bad guys out there. So you and I had to be bigger and badder. So when we walked up, those guys would look at us and go, "Oh, I ain't going to mess with that guy." And they'd give up. And, half our fight is looking the part. So
Right.
now, so now my goal is to go out and beat up the biggest and the baddest. That's why I carry a gun. So
Right.
so now my goal is just to be able to handle myself and to protect myself or my family, because now, I mean, it's a wild west out there now. So, what I'm doing now is I'm eating whole, clean. I'm staying away from processed food, period. So my whole kitchen is whole food. I stay away from processed food at all. I've cut sugar completely out, and so no sugar at all. And I don't even want it anymore. And that took a while because I was a sweet guy, but no sugar at all. And I pretty much stay on a keto based diet, a little modified because I do some berries. I do like all the berries, like for a fruit, for a snack, but it's a modified keto, not a lot of carbs, but I still need the carbs, but just not a lot of them.
Right.
And I try to stay away from grains because grains are really hard on my personal digestive system. So and really your diet is really personalized. I recommend you find a nutritionist that can help you get your diet straight. My diet was very low grain because I don't process it well. And then on top of whole food and eating whole food stuff instead of, like, God, for years, man, we were eating out of our car window the whole time. And so I try to stay away from that stuff as much as I can, stay away from that stuff. So eating good is really top now, trying to keep my body fueled up the right way. And then as far as exercise, I work out twice, maybe 3 times a week, but no more than 3 days a week. And I'm doing strictly body weight, push-ups, sit-ups, burpees, up downs, modified sit-ups, anything with body weight, because now I don't really want to bulk up so much as I want to just stay strong to where I can handle myself. If someone threatens me or my family, I'll be able to handle myself and not get winded, be able to stay strong through the fight and end it quick and stand on top of my trophy and wait for the police to show up to handcuff him. So that's my goal now. But that all those days of heavy lifting and stuff, we can't do that anymore. Not as guys, but not as old guys. But the thing is just to do something.
Yeah.
Movement is key.
Yep. Especially at our age, because if you like, I started a job and I was driving a lot, so I was driving back and forth to Dallas. It's an hour and 45 minutes one way. And I was like never motivated to, I'd get up at 4 and be on the road by 4:30. So I'm not working out before work. I'd have to get up at 3, take a shower and all that stuff. And then when I get home, I might get home at 7. And then it's like, man, I packed on some fat in like 6 months, and it took a heck of a long time for me to try to burn that off. But yeah, for me, it's functional fitness. What I try to do now, like you, similar, is I'll do body weight workouts. I have a TRX where I'll just do hanging stuff or, just some different exercises there every other day. And then I try to do high intensity interval training, which is just to get my heart rate up for like 10 minutes at a time. And that's to do like 10 different rounds at, whatever, a minute or, whatever. And then I'll rest, couple 30 seconds in between, on a punching bag with my sticks, because I'm not trying to run 8 miles or 5 miles or any of that stuff. I just want to have a quick burst of energy, be functional, and just be able to overwhelm, swarm, and they can't ever catch up. And then they're done. And like you said, put my gun up so I don't get shot by the,
Right.
Here he is.
Yeah.
Here he is.
Stand on top of him like a
right
trophy.
Here, bad guy.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think that I think the key for guys our age now is it's not a marathon now. I mean, we want to end the fight quick, and
absolutely.
all of my fighting strategies now are extreme shock and awe.
Yep.
I'm going to end this fight in 30 seconds or less.
Yep.
And, that way I've still got some strength. I've still got some strength left just in case something else happens, because it always goes sideways. It never goes the right way. But, all my fight strategies now are quick, end it quick. And I want it done in 30 to 45 seconds. I want it over.
Yep.
Well, because it hurts. I mean, man, it hurts now to fight. It
hurt. I'm not gonna hit anybody closed fist ever again. It's all gonna be open hands and stuns and going through, because I don't want to break my metatarsals in my fingers, because I need those to run my gun or whatever else. Or if there's another guy, so I'm gonna keep my head on a swivel, drop one dude. But so let's kind of talk about your fighting, because this is an interesting journey. When I came to Kerrville, you and I worked out together, and I'm probably going to kind of bounce back and forth. When Bill and I were working out and we were pushing a lot of weight, he and I were put on a special assignment one night to go after this really bad dude that assaulted 2 police officers on third watch. And Bill and I worked midnights. We work graveyards, and our sergeant said, "Hey, I'm going to put you guys on special assignment. You're going to try to find this guy." And that's all we did. That was our job. And when he assaulted those 2 police officers, this dude was like a high school standout at Tybee. He ended up bench pressing 500 pounds. So there was a lot of people scared of him. He assaulted 2 of our fellow police officers. And didn't you say when we had lunch that one of the officers bent an asp on this dude trying to hit him?
Bit an asp on his leg, trying to hit him with an asp.
Yeah, and you and I went after him, boy. We got him good, and justice was served. But you and I were working out a lot, right? And I was teaching you some really good the swim technique and how to get behind somebody really quick and some good stuff. But I brought with me to Kerrville PPCT, pressure point control tactics, and I was a basic instructor. And so I knew some of that. I knew the lateral vascular neck restraint, and then I'd modify it for whatever when I was out on the street. You and your wife, y'all really got into the PPCT and so kind of walk us through that. And then, and you've always been kind of an entrepreneur. You've always wanted to kind of do something a little extra, whether it be dog training, or you've always kind of had some stuff on the side. So you've had this knack for doing something. But talk about the PPCT, your fight strategies, what you learned then, how long you taught, what the different modules were, because you became I was a basic, and I think you went to intermediate advanced, and I was blown away. You had your own side business going.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, you were the one that got me into PPCT. I'd never even heard of it before you started teaching. And then, we went through the basic PPCT, and then I started doing advanced and intermediate work with PPCT. I did a ground fighting class with them. And then I also did a class specifically geared for females that was mainly to teach females awareness strategies as far as staying safe, because at the time, females were really being targeted for either assault or even harassment, like sexual harassment. And so I went through a PPCT course that taught females how to be aware of this and how to represent themselves and maybe stand up for themselves, where society has been teaching women to be subservient and to be ladies instead of being warrioresses that they should be in those circumstances. And so I went through that ground fighting class, and I really enjoyed the ground fighting. I thought that staying, we learned right away even in PPCT, we learned that using the ground as an immobilizer
Yeah.
is the way to go.
Yeah.
And, most police fighting strategies would end up on the ground at some point if you were doing it right.
Right.
You were ending up on the ground in control, not underneath somebody, but in control on the ground, and you using the ground as an immobilizer so that you can work that guy into handcuffs. And so that, and a lot of our PPC strategies ended in handcuffing. That's where it all ends up, is in handcuffing. So, and ground fighting was the same way. Ground fighting was when you got to the ground and things went sideways after that. So that was kind of the natural step for me now, was going into ground fighting. And if you go to ground and it goes sideways and doesn't go as planned and you can't get into handcuffing, how can you progress that ground fight into a handcuffing position? And so, that was really, that I really liked the ground fighting stuff. I could really work somebody over on the ground because I had the knowledge. It wasn't that I was any stronger
No, that's it. It's
any better.
Yeah. And I had an advantage. You had an advantage then too, because it wasn't as like crazy popular as it is now, where, a lot, it's way more common now. So I imagine police officers nowadays, they get someone on the ground, they're probably going to, odds of them coming across someone that might have been in a BJJ class is a lot higher than it used to be. Right. So
yeah, I saw a guy in Target, a patrolman in Target. He was, kind of manhandling a customer that was really ornery. And this was a video. I didn't actually see it, but this guy was really, he wasn't like violent, but he definitely was uncooperative, and it was going nowhere. And so they ended up going to the ground, and man, I saw this officer just grab a hand and do a spin and put him into like an arm bar, like a straight lay down arm bar. And I was like, holy shit, that's a jujitsu move right there. That's cool. So yeah, I'm glad they're teaching that stuff now. But everything of ours ended up on the ground, and so everything that I do now ends up on the ground. And back when we were working, if you could pull off a lateral vascular neck restraint, that was the ultimate move, and that ended the fight in 3 seconds. So I mean, you talk about ending a fight. That move, if you can get around to the back and put someone in a vascular neck restraint, not a choke, but a vascular neck restraint, man, those were the best moves, because that would end the fight, and it ended it safely. I mean, the way we were taught to do it, we actually protected the airway, so it wasn't a choke.
Yeah.
And so, there was science behind it. There was medical science behind it. And, that move was awesome. We could end a fight in 3 seconds to get on the back, and then 3 seconds to put them out. And the fight was over, and nobody else got hurt. And that was a great move. Unfortunately, we can't do that anymore. Right. In law enforcement. We can't, but, most of my stuff now, and most of my fighting moves now control the head. You remember, you always used to tell me, where the head goes, the body follows. And I
control the head, control the body, man.
Yeah, man. I teach all my kids that move. Yeah. Cause I would do that to my kids. I'd be like, oh, and I just I'd move them around like little rag dolls. Yeah. And I would teach them, wherever the head goes, the body follows, guys. And, I can run you into your car, or I can run you into the ground. But so a lot of my fighting now is controlling the head and controlling movement, getting down to the ground, and just getting into an arm bar or some type of hold where I've got control and leverage over them, and then using the ground as an immobilizer. Absolutely. And then just sit there and wait and stand on my trophy until the police get there.
Yeah. Have brother gravity helping you out, as far as the ground goes. Absolutely. No, that's cool. So when we talk about PPCT, Bruce Siddle is the guy who created PPCT as pressure point control tactics. It's a really great system. It was cutting edge. And he did all the research with, medical personnel, and like the lateral vascular neck restraint is a double carotid artery. You're protecting the airway. You're not crushing the windpipe or anything like that. And it's really super humane, and it can end fights like this. When you see a lot of these police brutality, things on, and they're going back and forth, if someone knew what they were doing and they did have that on their force continuum, it would be over in seconds. And when a guy's not getting oxygen to his brain in 3 to 7 seconds and he's not fighting anymore, and, no one gets hurt. So that's what a lot of people don't understand. But then you got somebody that swallows some drugs and they're fighting the police, and then, it's the drugs that kill them or whatever that they choke on. But anyway, neither here nor there.
Yeah. A lot of those police brutality cases are because the fight continued, right? The fight, they didn't
I can't
end
watch
the
that
fight.
stuff because I'm like, man, why didn't you just,
Yeah.
if you would have just escalated force because you were justified so much sooner, it'd be done. This pitter pat shit, back and forth. That's where.
Yeah. A lot of fights can end, if you end that fight quick, then nobody else is going to get hurt. But the longer the fight goes on, man, the more I'm going to have to hit you, or you're going to have to hit me. And, the more pain we're going to inflict on each other. But if I can put you out in 7 seconds and, have you wake up and you're handcuffed, and I've actually done the best fight, which is one where you didn't get hit, I didn't get hit, and you ended up in jail like you were supposed to, and everybody ended up okay.
Yeah. The best ones are when they would wake up and they're like, huh? And they're like, what happened? Yeah. And then it's like, hey, come on, let's go. Oh my God. Okay. And they're like, they're coming out of a dream state, like, hey, okay. Yeah. They're really humane, really good stuff. But yeah, I remember. So I was going to ask you if you had taught your kiddos some of that stuff. Sounds like you had, but yeah, dude, control the head, control the body. And then I got you so good at the swim technique, being able to just in so quick, be able to get behind somebody. Because the best way to fight somebody is when their back is to you and all their weapons and stuff are not, because then they have to turn to face you. And we used to work on shadow techniques, and you would just shadow them and you just stay behind them. And man, it's easy to win that way, which is good. All right. So man, this is good stuff. Take me down memory lane. But you did that as a side job for how many years after?
Man, I did that. So I started a company and started doing that on the side, and I probably did that for about 5 years on the side, just going to different police departments and teaching pressure point control tactics and ground fighting. And I did a lot of seminar work on just that female awareness training, where I would have, I would teach high school graduating seniors, how to stay aware and be safe at college, because they're going to be freshmen in college next year, and that's fertile hunting ground for anybody that's going to assault or harass a female. So I did a lot of that seminar stuff for safety for females, and I did it for corporations too, just teaching about sexual harassment and how to thwart and avoid it, how to not set yourself up as a victim right away, because that's definitely one where, a predator looks for willing victims. And if you don't portray yourself as a willing victim, then they're going to move on to somebody else.
Right.
And that's bad. So, but if you're not that person that's going to get harassed or assaulted because you look like somebody that's going to fight back.
Yeah. So so you did that for a while. Let's talk about your mental game. So like, I know for me personally, and then we'll talk about your spiritual, because I think it's great where you've gone and you've always kind of had a pulse on me spiritually throughout our lives. And that I've gone up and down and been on some crazy mental rides, but back in the day, and this is like for me on the Knight's path, is to try to be the best version of myself physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I need all three of those to be a whole and healthy man. And back in the day when we were working out and I was lifting a house, it was all physical. And I had so many holes in my mental game, insecurities and stuff. And, my deity that I was chasing was women and booze and fighting, and lifting weights and trying to look good, so I didn't have my priorities straight. I was in a good career that I was trying to help, and stuff like that. And I could make myself feel good about it, but man, there was so much stuff. But let's, mentally, where were you back then? Cause you and I, we kind of melded, and we just kind of really just dug into this. Let's be the biggest, baddest, toughest looking son of a guns on the planet that no one wants to mess with. But then, you had some marital problems, you had some holes in your mental game. I think maybe your faith kind of got you back, and you got into youth ministry and stuff like that. But, And if they blend, Bill. But let's talk about how your mental sharpness, your steel trap, and then you've got your common denominator you can always go back to. And I'll just say this. I remember this stuck with me, and I've said this on a couple of my podcasts. You never know what someone says to you that'll stick. And I remember you way back in the day saying, a lot of people think it's a bad thing to be called a Jesus freak. You call me a Jesus freak all day long. Heck yeah, because I love him. And if I'm a freak about it, then good for me. And sad that other people think that's a bad thing, right? So anyway, I'll let you take it away with the mental and the spiritual, brother, and your ministry and things of that nature.
Yeah. So, back in the KPD days when you and I were focusing on our physical image, and we had, we justified it. You and I, we justified it because it was our job. Right. And, we needed to, part of a police use of force continuum is officer presence. And so, if you look like an intimidating guy, then the chances of you getting challenged or fought, someone wanting to fight you, diminish. If you look like a contender, then your officer presence is working. And so we would justify our workouts and all the supplements and all that stuff that we would eat 8 or 10 times a day, meals, crazy meals, just to keep that image. And back then, you were right that we focused on the physical part of it, how we looked, and we were totally missing the mental game of it. And so, because of that, we developed these mentalities that did not work for us as far as being real men, right? Like we looked like real men. We were badasses, but mentally we were not straight at all. We had it all screwed up. Yeah. Our mental, we weren't focusing on that at all. And so, now I come back, and that totally wrecked my marriage because I was focusing on me and I wasn't focusing on me and my wife. I was just focusing on me. And of course, my wife feels that, and she feels like, man, you don't love me anymore. You love you. And she was totally right on that, because that's where I was focusing on. And so, it took something like my marriage falling apart to shake me, and it shook me enough to where I was like, wow, man, I have got this totally screwed up. And so, that's when I realized that I was focusing way too much on the physical side of it and not the spiritual and the mental side of it. And so, and I have that mentality, and you have that mentality too, the mentality of, man, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to fix it the right way. And so I realized we have the discipline, and that's exactly what it is. It's discipline. It's having the discipline to say, I'm going to fix this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to fix it. And so what it took was me quitting my police job and getting some other side job just to make money, and focusing on getting my mental game back together and getting my marriage back together. And so right away I focused on my spirituality, which I had dropped because I was more focused on the physical end of me than the mental and spiritual end. And so,
it's easy. I'll just say this. It's easy to go, blessed are the peacemakers, for they are called the children of God. Hey, I'm doing God's work out here.
Yeah.
I'm one of his soldiers. It's easy to ignore that when you're doing quote unquote God's work, if you just really eat into that. But there's so much more to it than that. Didn't mean to interrupt, but that was one for me to justify, hey, I'm out here doing his work. I'm a peacemaker. But,
yeah. King David was a peacemaker, but yet, when it came down to it, King David, instead of being out in the field fighting like everybody else, like he should have been, he's in the palace lusting over Bathsheba. Right. And that's where he makes his mistake. And that's where we made our mistake too, is we were so big on ourselves that, we let our mental game drop and our discipline drop. And so, that's basically where it was, is we dropped our discipline completely. And our mental discipline. And so, what I did is went back spiritually, went back and rediscovered, I rediscovered God. God didn't rediscover me. I rediscovered him, and, figured out where I was, where my place was in his role for me, and got my discipline back. And once I had once I had my mental discipline back, and discipline is basically doing what you know what is right, even though it's not easy.
Right.
And so that is discipline. And so, getting that mental discipline back, doing the right thing, even though it's not easy, started making the right decisions again. Right. So I started making the right decisions, and, I started, my spiritual disciplines. I started those back, started going back to church regularly, started getting, it's not just going to church, it's getting involved in church
Right.
too. So, you can be truly transformed by Jesus, but, you can say I'm transformed by Jesus, but the people who are actually transformed want to go out and do something about it. Right. So you can say I love Jesus, but, the people that are really changed actually want to go out and do something. That's the real change part. And so, once that change happened in me again, then, I started, my steel trap discipline, being very disciplined mentally. And what that took me neglecting the physical end.
Yep.
So I wasn't working out as much. I wasn't staying in shape. I got overweight. I mean, not by much, but I mean, I did lose my shape, but got my marriage back. And, after that, it's maintaining that discipline. So, it's maintaining the discipline, the mental discipline of, hey, look, these are the right decisions, even though they're not the easy decisions, they're still right. It was not easy to go get my marriage back. I mean, that was not easy at all, but it was the right thing to do. And so, discipline and spirituality saying, hey, this is my wife, and I need to go mend that. I need to get her back.
You know what I think is brilliant about that, Billy, is, and you're probably one of the few cops that had that spell where you, and you retired, because when I got out of police work, I lost my identity, because all I knew was, now I'm a citizen. So I think it was pretty smart, and you probably didn't know it at the time, and it sucked and it was hard, but you lost your identity as a cop. So you were stripped of that, but then that allowed you to go, okay, who am I? I want to be this husband and God-loving man and a great husband and father and all this other stuff. So I think it was probably brilliant, whether you planned it that way or not, or you just got out of police work, but to lose your identity as a peace officer and be a civilian, and then to just be, which is plenty good, husband, right, father, and all that stuff. And so.
Yeah, I think that, so, and you're right, at the time, I didn't see it as losing my identity, but I did step back, and I did a lot of soul searching, a lot of time alone, meditating on, hey, where did this go wrong? And where can I go back and fix it? And, right away, I recognized that my job was in the way. And so, again, discipline, doing the hard stuff. So, I loved my job. I felt that was my calling, and it was, and it still is. But I had to leave it in order to do the right thing. And so I left it. It was hard, wasn't easy. I left it. And, after my wife and I got back together, and we're on the right path. Both of us were on the right path again, very disciplined, very spiritually straight. That's when I got back into police work. And it wasn't that I went out looking for it. It actually came to me. Mm-hmm. And they said, hey, we need somebody with your experience. Can you come to work for us? And I actually went and talked to my wife first and said, hey, look, this has come up, and what do you think? And, we both prayed on it, and we agreed, hey, you know what, we're right now. So I think we can do this together. And that's what we did. We did it together. And so I told the chief, I was like, yeah, I can come to work. When do you need me? And he said, tomorrow. So yeah, I went back to work the next day.
Okay.
But when I went back to work, I was a totally different person. Yeah. And my wife will tell you that her first husband was an asshole, but her second husband is a great guy. So, and I can say the same thing about her. My first wife was horrible, but my second wife is amazing, even though they're the same person. But right, we changed, and right, I think that we realized that we can be disciplined, and we can still do things and be disciplined and be married, and that the second time around has just been great. but we've kept the focus in the right place. We don't focus on our personal stuff. We focus on each other and our discipline, our spiritual discipline, and then our physical discipline too. And it all works out. I mean, it's just kind of, when you got God in the center of your life, everything just seems to work out.
Yeah. Priorities. So I saw y'all on Instagram at one point in time. Y'all were, speaking of doing things together. Y'all were eating some friggin' seaweed chips or something, and y'all both were like,
oh yeah.
But it's y'all are trying things, being healthy, and all kinds of things together. It's pretty funny. So no, I love it, and it was great seeing you. I've known your wife for a long time, and we were a bunch of characters back then. And what's funny when you say that, my wife. I've been married to her twice. I divorced her and we got married again. And I guarantee you that first husband she was married to is a complete asshole. The second husband, an asshole at times, but getting better and better and better, right, and trying like hell. And now I appreciate her so much more than I ever have. And I kind of take her. It's amazing to have the clarity that you and I have now in our older life. And you hear so many little sayings from old men, and like there's so many, oh, that's just an old saying or whatever. But man, the older you get, right, the sweeter things become, But yeah, as far as she is concerned, I'll just say something to her. I'll just see her and I just love her, and she'll just be like, well, thanks. Like it's just the way I feel about her pouring out. It's amazing. So let's talk about how you got out of. When you got out of police work, how did you get into the phone thing? How did that happen? And then, if you want to share it, I mean, you were like one of 3 dudes in the friggin' state that can do things at your level.
Yeah. So when I first, as a detective in Ingram, we were small town Ingram. I was the detective. I worked every case. And, there was a case where it was a pretty bad case where it was a girl that had been molested by her stepdad. And she was being molested every night for the last 5 years, every night. And luckily, one of the relatives went out of town and came back and found some porn on a phone and a computer. And that's what started the whole thing. That's what saved this girl's life. And so, as a detective, as a good detective that I was, I collected up all the phone and the computer because that's what started the case. And I send it off to the state lab for analysis because we're small. We don't have that type of tech or anything. And, luckily at the time I was on top of my game, and I collected for DNA evidence too. And so I send all that off the same day, and the DNA evidence comes back in about 3 months, and his DNA is found in a place where he can't explain it. And so, we got him. I mean, this case is done. We're going to have some justice here, but we're waiting on the phone and the computer to come back. And, after probably 7-8 months of it not coming back, the DA says, look, we're just going to go, and we're going to go with it. And man, the guy gets 30 years and he's still in prison. But a year and a half later, the state lab calls and says, hey, we're ready to start your phone and your computer. Tell us about your case. And I was like, man, this guy's already in prison. I mean, this is worthless. And so they wiped the stuff and sent it back. And, right then the DA and I said, hey, man, we had a meeting. There's got to be a better way to do this. And the DA, who is a good friend of mine now, he says, yeah, we're going to send you to school. You're going to learn how to do this.
Nice.
And I think he saw in me the discipline it takes to stay on top of that game. And so I got certified in 2011 with Cellebrite, which is a company that has a tool. And I started working phones. And at the time he said, hey, look, we can only send you to one class. So you choose phones or computers. Which one do you want to do? And I'm like, man, I'll do phones because every crook I know has a phone.
Right.
But not all of them have computers. So that's why I went with cell phones. And so I stuck with cell phones. That's all I do. That's all I do now is cell phones. I don't do anything else. And I keep my focus very sharp on cell phones. I'm not distracted by anything else. So everything I do is strictly cell phones. And that's how I'm so good at what I do, because I'm not distracted by computers and networks and intrusion things and e-discovery. All I do is strictly phones. And so, 100% of my ability goes into that. And so I think that, and that plus that and my focus and discipline really helped me be at the top of my game. So after that, I did that for like 5 years as a detective, and then retirement comes up, and I had to make the decision whether I was going to stay on or retire out. And my mom was still alive at the time, and my mom said, I would always go to my mom as kind of like a sounding board. Hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
And she said, you know what, this is it. And she called me Billy. She said, Billy, this is it. This is what's going to make you. This is what's going to be your retirement. This phone business. I think you should retire and go into this phone business.
Nice.
And so that's what I did. I retired, and what's funny, it's not funny, but it's kind of ironic that I retired and started this phone company, and she actually did my initial capital to help me buy the equipment. $25,000 she gave me to start this business, buy the equipment, get going. And a year later,
so you could start a lab in that small town. Yeah.
Yeah. So the initial 25 grand to get me the equipment and get me started, she gave me, and then she passes away a year later. And that was really her in the hospital. In her final days, she's like, Billy, I want you to make this work. This is going to work for you. I'm so proud of you. And so it was like her dying wish that this lab work. And so, kind of that weight on me also really pushes me to be the best that I can. So, after that, I keep going. I realize that I can't sit idle. I have to be learning. I don't know it all, and I can't know it all because the industry and the technology changes weekly. So I realize that, and I stay humble, and I go to schools all the time. I'm training, I'm doing some type of certifications all the time. And because of that discipline to stay to not be okay with where I'm at, to always try to be better at what I'm doing.
Consummate learner.
Yes. And so because of that discipline, I'm constantly learning new techniques and constantly learning new ways to better myself, and my goal is to be the best at it. I want to be the guy. I don't want to be one of the guys. I want to be the guy. And it's not for me or my pride. It's because I want to be that guy that does the best job that he can do, no matter what it is.
Right.
I want to be able to say, I'm going to get it. And if I can't get it, nobody else can get it.
Right.
So, that is my drive. My goal is to be. And so, man, I go to classes all the time. I'm learning new techniques. The latest technique I learned, there's a very, well, I can't say too much about it, but, what I did learn is, I basically learned how to rebuild an iPhone from scratch. And there are several major federal agencies that cannot do that. They cannot rebuild an iPhone. And so what they do is they send that phone to a company, and the company repairs it, rebuilds it, and sends it back to the federal agency. And so what I did is I went and I paid that company to teach me what they know. So now they trained me, and I'm fresh back from that a couple of months ago. And it's just amazing what I'm able to accomplish now in this little lab in Ingram, Texas.
Yeah.
The level of work that we're doing here is off the charts. And so because of that board level repair stuff that I do, I'm one of 3 people in Texas that can do that type of work.
Yeah.
And to the level that we're doing it. And, I'm just a little bitty lab here in Ingram. I'm a one-man shop, but and what it is, it's that discipline. It's that not being okay with where I'm at, because I can always be better at something.
Right.
And so I'm constantly striving to better myself. I'm never satisfied with where I'm at. And, now as we speak right now, I'm trying to find something else to go learn, because there's something else that I can be better at.
Right.
And so it's that constant drive. And I think that's missing in people. I see
God.
that.
Oh,
I see that in this generation where, they're okay with being okay. Well, I don't want to be okay. I want to be the guy. Right. I want to be the best. And whatever it takes for me, that drive to put me at the tip of the spear, I'm going to do that. And I try to instill that in all my kids. And, I did youth ministry for a while because I wanted to make this place better. I want to leave a legacy. That's part of it. I want people to know who I was and go back and say, wow, that guy, Bill, he taught me this, and he taught me to be disciplined, or he taught me how to do this. And so I want to leave a legacy, not for myself, but for them. So I want to do my part to make this world better when I leave. Yeah. And so, mentoring kids is what I do best now. Teaching kids, hey, look, you don't have to go to 4-year college to get a degree. If you want to be a policeman, I'm going to teach you how to be a policeman. Let's go do that. Yep. Let's talk about that. And so, again, being that role model for somebody, being that male role model, whether they have one or they don't have one, that's gotta be who we are as men.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things I was trying not to, if I do this, it's because I'm jotting down notes in my brain. I don't want to forget a point, but you hit on something that was absolutely like the consummate student is just keep trying. And you and I talked about this where mastery is treading water. So you break the surface, hey, I'm a master. I'm at the top of my game, but it's treading water. You got to keep moving your arms and kicking your legs, because waves come, and then you may have to, it's, to stay at that level, it's effort. So I'm glad that you see that and you do that. And no, absolutely. If I can impart something that, my daughter remembers for the rest of her life, you and I have so many things and that's what's crazy too. That 2 years must've been like dog years, because it was like, 14 years of my life of memories and good times and laughs and heartbreaks and all kinds of stuff. But let's round this out with let's talk about your tattoos, man, because let's go back in the day. Like, I got an arm tattoo, Celtic, and then Billy got one. And, you mean another guy at the PD, they were all making fun of us, but I think they were all kind of scared shitless of us too. It's like, hey man, these dudes are like, who's this guy from Dallas PD that comes in, and all of a sudden 2 of our Kerrville guys they all got this band on their right arm,
Yeah.
And those arms are getting bigger and bigger at the gym. Holy crap, but now you've got some really cool art. And like, I was like taking pictures, like when you and I had lunch, and I'm like, what does this mean? And dude, Billy, I need to get one, because like, that's cool, dude. So now I'm like, geeking out like we did back in the day when we got our little bands, so.
Yeah. So when my mom was very into our heritage, and my mom's family is Welsh, and my dad's family is Northern England. So my mom comes from the Joneses, and my dad is an ACOC, obviously. So my mom was very into our Welsh heritage. And they went so far as to actually find that we were from Jonesville in Wales. And my mom never actually got to go to Wales, but I did have I had some aunts and a grandmother that went to Wales and talked to our relatives, like fresh off the boat people. I mean, it was really cool. And so I embraced my Welsh heritage, and then we started doing DNA testing and found that my dad's side of the family is from Northern England. And so I started tracking down family marks and things like that. And I did find a family mark that is Fenrir, and Fenrir is a Nordic warrior. He's the son of Loki, which some people think of Loki as a bad guy, but actually Loki was not in Norse mythology. He was not a bad guy. He was a trickster, but he was not a bad guy. And his son was Fenrir. Fenrir is a mighty warrior wolf, and he represents the warrior clans. And so I have Fenrir. Let's see if I can see it. So I have Fenrir on my forearm, and this is my family mark. And there's tribal here. There's tribal all the way around. And then I have up on my shoulder up here, the tribal goes all the way up and into my chest. This was the Welsh tradition is to have the shoulder chest tattoos, and actually Welsh people have tattoos all over their chest. They hurt. So the chest ones hurt. So I haven't done much more on my chest other than this tribal coming back over to my chest here. But I have a Celtic cross on my shoulder that represents my Christianity and my Welsh heritage. And it's all with the Celtic knot. So Welsh symbols are basically knots, and knots mean different things. And so, I have a shield knot in the middle of my Celtic cross. And so my Celtic Christian heritage and the shield knot is basically my protection against evil. And then across my forearm here, I have the Nibel Octon Okosmais, which is Welsh, and that basically translates to evil fears me. And basically that, I'm not going to hurt you, but if you're evil, you should fear me. And so that's what that says in a nutshell. And then I have a broadsword on my forearm, and this is actually an English broadsword for my dad's family. And then in the broadsword, I have a Welsh proverb, and it's only part of the proverb. The actual Welsh proverb says that the greatest knowledge is to know yourself. And so I have in here in Gaelic, I have know yourself. And so those are my marks. And then I have the tribal that I have a great tattoo guy. So he's worked in all this tribal for me here. And so those are my tattoos. And I have the Welsh armband from back in the day, the very first one.
Yeah. Your starter tattoo.
And I tell a story about that one too. I tell a story about how you and I went in, and it was Good Time Charlie at the tattoo arcade by the Alamo in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And Good Time Charlie was a felon, and he loved doing cops. And so I think you and I got armbands for like $80. Yeah. And it was 4 hours of work, shading and all that stuff. And I remember talking to Charlie going, "Hey man, you're a felon. You would you threaten the president, or did you do something bad? I mean, you were a felony. You were in federal jail, dude. What did you do?" And, he talks real big. Federal pen, it's not all cookies and milkshakes, and it's hard time, and it's year for year. And we're thinking, God, man, you must have killed somebody. And he was in there. He says, he finally tells me I was in there for tax evasion. I was like, oh man. Well, no, we're not going to tell anyone that. We're just going to tell them that you were in federal prison.
My guy. Yeah. He my cops. He was in the federal pen.
Federal pen. Good Time Charlie. His son now owns that tattoo shop, and they've moved it. And I forget his son's name, but yeah, Good Time Charlie.
So your tattoo guy, was he local? Where's your tattoo guy now?
So the tattoo guy that does me now is.
Well, you can tell me offline. We don't have to let everybody know, because I don't want everyone just going, "Hey, let's go to Bill's tattoo guy," unless this guy wants to get his door beaten down. But
yeah, his name is James Delgadillo. He's Twisted Tattoo in San Antonio, and that place is squared away. That is the best, cleanest, nicest tattoo shop I have ever seen. And we saw. Not that I went and got a lot of tattoos, but we raided a lot of tattoo places. And so, those tattoo shops were nasty and, filthy. The people were filthy inside, but James and his shop are very squared away. And his artists that guy is a business guy. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a great tattoo artist, but he runs a business.
Yeah. You got
I'm
to.
yeah, and his tattoo shop is awesome. They're fair priced, and they do great work. So I highly recommend anybody go there. Of course, he's appointment only now, so they don't take walk-ins. You got to call, make an appointment. But man, those guys are great. I got lots of stories about James Delgadillo that I won't tell online, but
Yeah.
man, the guy's great, and his shop is awesome. I highly recommend it. Twisted Tattoo in San Antonio.
Okay, cool. Good plug there. I'll try to find a link for the website and I'll put it down here. Do you want to put your Verify Lab
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
on here? I mean,
yeah. So
yeah.
so I do, most of my work is litigation work, and I'm not cheap. So a lot of my stuff is litigation, big truck attorneys. I do law enforcement work also. Part of
If a civilian wanted to come to you? Have you had civilians come to you in the past? If maybe someone passed away or someone they wanted to look up old phone pictures, or I mean, I'm just trying
yeah.
to
So the
spitball.
I do get civilian work, and I do pro bono work too. Like if a parent has thinks their child is doing something on their phone, or maybe they're being stalked on the phone, I
Mm.
do that work for free. If a parent brings in a phone and they need me to look at it, man, I will support
Oh
that
God,
all
I
day
imagine like
long.
predators and
Yeah.
God Almighty, yeah.
Yeah. So I do all that work for free. I do that pro bono work. If you're a parent and you think your child is involved in something they shouldn't be, get that phone to me and I'll tell you exactly what's on it. Also a big part of my job is data recovery. So especially that school that I just came back from, where phones have been damaged or they've been broken in half or run over or burned in a fire or been in the lake for 5 years.
Jeez.
A lot of that specialty work now is data recovery, that what I do now. So a lot of that, I'll do some civilian work on that too, for data recovery. Just, hey, my phone stopped working and I need these pictures off.
Right. Okay. Sweet. All right. Well, I'll put your stuff down there, Billy. Man, thanks for coming on, brother. I love you. Uh,
Yeah.
let's do lunch again next time you're up this way, and
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take you up on that. What was that vanilla latte? You had like three. What
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
your
I'm a
poison?
big I'm a big coffee nerd, so I do lattes. I do like triple shot. Yeah, I do like triple shot lattes. It's got to have some hair on it in order to get me going. All those years of drinking black motor oil coffee from Circle K at night. That that stuff kind of gets your tolerance a little high. So
That does.
now I'm doing triple shot lattes
Like
with
it's nothing.
healthy stuff like almond milk, and
Yeah, dude.
but yeah.
And a little vanilla, right? Like you like the
Yeah,
vanilla?
throw
Like
a
the
little
vanilla there,
vanilla.
Billy?
Yeah, throw a little vanilla in there. I like it sweet,
Yeah.
but it's got to have a lot of hair on it, or it
Yeah.
doesn't do any good for me. Yeah.
Get going. Hey, kiss the wife for me. I love you, brother. And yeah, so what I'll probably do is so many, like I'll do like a revisit a year later. So we'll come back a year later and see where you're at, see where I'm at, and we'll just do this again. But of course, we're gonna hang out and do a bunch of stuff in the meantime and stay
Yeah.
in touch. So love you,
Yeah.
buddy. Thanks for coming on.
All right, man. Talk at you later.
Later.